In this video, I'm about to go over 20 coffees you absolutely need to stop consuming, and why, as well as 5 that are genuinely good for you. Number 20. Starbucks Frappuccinos. We've got to start with one of the most popular coffee imposters out there, Starbucks Frappuccinos. And hey, I get it, these things taste great. They're cold, creamy, give you that warm, fuzzy feeling, and are loaded with flavor. But here's the truth most people don't want to hear. Frappuccinos are milkshakes pretending to be coffee. You're not drinking coffee. You're drinking dessert in disguise. Take the bottled version from the grocery store. Cute little glass bottle, easy to grab and go. But crack it open, and you're sipping down 50 grams of sugar. That's more than an entire can of Coke. And if you think you're safe for ordering one in store, think again. A medium or large Frappuccino will run you 400 to 600 calories without breaking a sweat. That's basically a full fast food meal, but without any of the nutrients your body actually needs. Now, let's talk about what it does to you. First, the sugar rush hits. You feel energized, even a little invincible. But 30 minutes later, the crash comes hard. You're sluggish, irritable, and reaching for more sugar just to feel normal again. Do that on repeat, and your coffee habit slowly trains your body into a cycle of sugar cravings, blood sugar spikes, weight gain, and eventually insulin resistance. Not exactly the pick-me-up you thought you were getting. And here's the sneaky part. Starbucks doesn't even try to hide it. Whipped cream, caramel drizzle, cookie crumbles, chocolate chips, they lean into it. The problem is, people convince themselves it's just coffee. It's not. It's a $5 liquid cupcake with a splash of espresso. So, bottom line being, if you're drinking Frappuccinos every day, you don't have a coffee routine, you've got a dessert routine. And while it may taste amazing in the moment, it's quietly wrecking your energy, your health, and your waistline. Number 19. Dunkin' Donuts Caramel Swirl Latte. If Starbucks Frappuccinos are liquid cupcakes, Dunkin's Caramel Swirl Latte is like a candy bar melted straight into your coffee cup. It's one of Dunkin's most popular drinks, and for good reason. It tastes amazing, I admit it. But the problem is simple. This latte is less about coffee and more about sugar syrup overload. Here's the breakdown. Dunkin's base latte on its own is already made with whole milk unless you swap it out. Then they hit it with pumps of their caramel swirl syrup, and that's where things go sideways. A medium caramel swirl latte can pack over 40 grams of sugar. Order a large. You're climbing closer to 60 grams. That's not just a sweet coffee. That's a dessert in disguise, and most people don't even realize it. And it's not just sugar. That syrup is loaded with corn syrup solids, artificial flavors, and preservatives to keep it shelf stable. You're not sipping on natural caramel, you're drinking a chemistry experiment. Add whipped cream or drizzle on top, and suddenly your morning latte has the same nutritional profile as a slice of cake. What this does to your body is no different than eating candy for breakfast. Quick sugar spike, temporary energy boost, and then the crash. You'll feel hungry again within the hour, craving even more sugar to get back to normal. Long term, this routine can lead to weight gain, mood swings, and a higher risk of diabetes. Dunkin' might call it a latte, but your body processes it like dessert, plain and simple. And here's the sneaky part. Dunkin' markets these swirl lattes as everyday drinks. They're on the menu all year, they push seasonal flavors, and they make them feel like a normal coffee order. But the truth is, a caramel swirl latte is basically a sugar bomb with a splash of espresso. It may get you hooked, but it won't keep you healthy. So if this is your go-to coffee order, you're not really drinking coffee. You're drinking a dessert in disguise, and your body pays the price one pump of syrup at a time. Number 18. Costco's Kirkland Signature Cold Brew. Costco is famous for big portions and great deals, but when it comes to their Kirkland Signature Cold Brew, especially the sweetened canned version, you might want to think twice. At first glance, it looks harmless. Sleek black can, cold brew coffee across the front, and a price that makes it tempting to buy by the case. But here's the catch. This isn't just coffee. It's coffee hiding behind a wall of added sugar. Each can of the sweetened cold brew packs around 20 grams of sugar. That might not sound as bad as a Frappuccino, but here's the problem. Most people don't stop at 1. Because it's marketed as light, smooth, and ready to drink, You can easily put back 2 or 3 in a day without realizing you've just chugged the sugar equivalent of a couple candy bars. And don't let the cold brew label fool you. Cold brew by itself can actually be a great option. It's smoother, lower in acidity, and gives you a clean caffeine hit. But once Costco adds sugar, it stops being a health-conscious coffee and turns into a disguised soft drink. The caffeine might wake you up, sure, but the sugar crash that follows will put you right back where you started, tired, hungry, and craving more. The sneakiest part is the branding. Costco's Kirkland label carries a reputation for quality, value, and even healthier options. So people think, oh, this has to be better for me than a Starbucks run. But in reality, it's just a cheaper way to keep feeding your sweet tooth. The only difference is you're buying it by the dozen instead of 1 cup at a time. Costco's sweetened cold brew might look like a smart, convenient option, but don't be fooled. If you want cold brew that's actually good for you, skip the sweetened cans and stick with the unsweetened version. Otherwise, you're just stocking your fridge with sugar water that happens to have caffeine. Number 17. Caffè Bustelo Instant Espresso. Caffè Bustelo is a cult favorite. The bright yellow can, the bold Cuban-style branding, it's built a reputation as the strong, affordable coffee that'll kick you into gear. But here's what most people don't know. The instant espresso version is packing more baggage than just caffeine. Let's start with science. Instant coffee, across the board, tends to have higher levels of acrylamide, a chemical that forms during the high-heat roasting and drying process. Acrylamide has been studied for potential links to cancer risk, nerve damage, and hormonal disruption when consumed in excess. According to the FDA's own surveys, instant coffees often test 2 to 3 times higher in acrylamide compared to regular brewed coffee. Caffè Bustelo's instant espresso isn't an exception. It falls right into that high-risk category. And it's not just acrylamide. Because it's instant, you're dealing with a product that's been spray-dried or freeze-dried, stripped down for convenience, and sometimes propped up with additives to preserve flavor. Sure, it dissolves fast in hot water, but you're trading quality beans for a process that boosts chemicals your body doesn't need. Now, let's talk caffeine. People see the word espresso and think they're getting an authentic Italian-style shot. The reality? A serving of Bustelo Instant Espresso has about 60 to 90 milligrams of caffeine, less than half of what a true cafe espresso delivers. So you're not just getting the chemical baggage, you're getting shortchanged on the very thing you bought it for: bold, concentrated energy. And yet, the marketing works. Bustelo sells an image: bold, strong, no-nonsense coffee. But the instant version is more like the fast food drive-thru of coffee: quick, cheap, but at a cost you don't see right away. When your espresso comes with a side of acrylamide and a watered-down caffeine hit, is it really worth it? Number 16. Aldi Beaumont Coffee. If you've ever walked into Aldi, you know the vibe. Budget-friendly everything, no-frills packaging, and store brands for almost every product. Their house coffee line, Beaumont Coffee, looks like a steal. A giant tub of grounds for a fraction of the price of name brands? For caffeine lovers on a budget, it's tempting. But here's the problem. Cheap coffee usually means cheap beans. And with Beaumont, the red flags start piling up fast. First, let's talk sourcing. With better coffee brands, you'll often see the origin printed proudly on the bag: Colombia, Ethiopia, Guatemala. With Beaumont, nothing. No region, no farm, no certifications. That usually means it's blended from the lowest grade beans bought on the commodity market. The lack of transparency isn't just suspicious, it's a telltale sign of coffee that could come from anywhere, with zero accountability for quality. Then there's the chemical side. Studies have shown that low-grade, mass-produced beans are more likely to be heavily sprayed with pesticides. Without fair trade or organic oversight, there's no guarantee you're not drinking a cocktail of leftover chemicals along with your morning brew. And because Aldi keeps prices rock bottom, you can bet they're not paying extra for cleaner, safer beans. On top of that, Beaumont coffee has been criticized by consumers for tasting burnt, bitter, and stale, which often happens when beans are over-roasted to hide defects. Over-roasting doesn't just ruin flavor. It increases the formation of acrylamide, the chemical linked to cancer risk that shows up more in cheap, poorly processed coffee. Here's the kicker. Aldi markets Beaumont as affordable coffee for everyone. And yes, it's affordable, but at what cost? You're saving a few bucks up front, but you're getting bottom shelf beans, possible pesticide residue, and a cup of coffee that tastes like it's been sitting in a warehouse for months. Number 15. Trader Joe's Instant Cold Brew. Trader Joe's has a reputation for quirky, high-quality products, the kind of store where you expect to find hidden gems. So when they launched their Instant Cold Brew coffee, people jumped on it. Convenient, trendy, and with that Trader Joe's label that screams, "Trust me, I'm better." But here's the cold truth. This coffee turned out to be a straight-up hazard. In 2023, Trader Joe's issued a nationwide recall of their Instant Cold Brew coffee because some jars were found to contain glass fragments. Let that sink in. People buying their morning pick-me-up ended up with the risk of sipping shards of glass. That's not just bad coffee. That's a trip to the ER waiting to happen. And while recalls happen across the food industry, for a brand that markets itself on quality and safety, it's a serious red flag. Now, let's zoom out. Even if you set the glass shards aside, instant cold brew, like most instant coffees, comes with its own issues. Studies, including FDA surveys, show that instant coffees contain higher levels of acrylamide than brewed coffee. Acrylamide is a chemical byproduct of roasting that's been linked to cancer risk and nerve damage when consumed regularly. Combine that with the glass recall, and you've got a product that's both chemically risky and physically dangerous. And here's the kicker. Trader Joe's customers are loyal. They see that label and assume they're getting something better than Folgers or Maxwell House. But in this case, the branding couldn't save them. The reality is, this coffee was just another instant shortcut, one that carried the double whammy of high acrylamide and actual physical contaminants. Number 14. New Mexico Piñon Coffee. New Mexico Piñon Coffee built its name on bold flavors and regional pride. But in 2025, one of their most popular products, the Dark Piñon single-serve pods, ended up in the headlines for all the wrong reasons. Here's what went down. A batch of their 10-count Dark Piñon pods had a serious quality control issue. The clear coat seal on the lids wasn't applied properly, and when those pods went through the high heat and pressure of a single-serve machine, the ink from the lid could actually leak into the coffee. Imagine firing up your morning brew and, instead of a clean cup of coffee, you're getting a splash of packaging chemicals mixed in. The company responded with a nationwide recall out of an abundance of caution. The specific batch in question was lot code 251,749, product number F3308, UPC 812,361,033,081, with a best buy date of May 8, 2026. Only those boxes were recalled, but they'd already made it onto shelves at Walmart, Target, Costco, and other major retailers before the issue was caught. Now, to be clear, the FDA classified it as a Class 3 recall, meaning the risk of serious harm was considered low and there haven't been reports of injuries. But let's be honest, who really wants even a low risk of drinking ink with their coffee? Food safe or not, those chemicals weren't meant to end up in your cup. And if something as basic as the lid seal can slip through the cracks, it raises bigger questions about what else could. Here's the real takeaway. Just because a coffee looks artisanal or premium doesn't mean it's immune from manufacturing slip-ups. In this case, the problem wasn't the beans, it was the packaging. But that's all it takes to turn your daily coffee ritual into a recall notice. Number 13. Members Mark Mocha Latte. Sam's Club is known for bulk deals, giant packs of snacks, gallon-sized condiments, and cases of drinks that keep your fridge stocked for weeks. But here's one bulk buy you might regret: the Members Mark Mocha Latte. It looks like a convenient, ready-to-drink coffee that'll save you money compared to Starbucks or Dunkin'. The problem? It's basically a canned sugar bomb in disguise. Let's break it down. Each can of Members Mark Mocha Latte carries around 200 to 250 calories and packs in close to 30 grams of sugar. That's about the same as drinking a candy bar melted into coffee form. And because it's sold in bulk, people don't just drink one, they grab a case and plow through multiple cans a week, sometimes a day. That kind of steady sugar intake doesn't just wreck your waistline, it keeps your blood sugar spiking and crashing like a roller coaster. And it's not just sugar. These cans are loaded with preservatives, stabilizers, and artificial flavorings to stretch shelf life. Real coffee doesn't need all that, but when you're mass producing for warehouse clubs, Those additives become the recipe. The result? Coffee that tastes smooth going down but leaves your body with a chemical cocktail that has nothing to do with actual coffee beans. What makes it even worse is the psychology of the bulk buy. People see a 12-pack or 15-pack of these lattes and think, hey, this is smarter and cheaper than grabbing Starbucks every day. But in reality, it's just a cheaper way to keep feeding a sugar addiction. Instead of spending $5 a day at Starbucks, you've just prepaid to stock your fridge with dozens of liquid desserts, and now the temptation is staring at you every time you open the door. Number 12. Folgers, Taster's Choice. Folgers and Taster's Choice are two names you've probably seen in almost every grocery store aisle. For a lot of people, they're the safe bet, the brands you grew up with, the brands you trust to be consistent. But here's the truth the labels don't tell you. Both Folgers and Taster's Choice show up near the very top when it comes to acrylamide, a chemical that forms during roasting and drying at high heat. And acrylamide isn't something you want in your morning routine. Let me remind you, acrylamide is a byproduct that develops in roasted foods like potatoes, bread, and, yes, coffee beans. Studies have connected long-term exposure to higher risks of cancer, nerve damage, and even hormonal disruption. The FDA has measured acrylamide levels across a wide range of foods, and coffee is consistently one of the highest contributors. And when you zero in on instant coffee, the numbers jump even higher. Here's where it gets uncomfortable. Folgers Classic Roast Instant, before it's brewed, tested at over 450 parts per billion of acrylamide in FDA surveys. Taster's Choice Gourmet Roast Instant wasn't much better, clocking in at just over 400. Even their ground coffee versions don't escape the problem, averaging in the 300s. Compare that to brewed coffee, where dilution brings the levels way down into the single digits, and you start to see the difference. It means that with instant coffee, you're drinking one of the most concentrated acrylamide sources on the shelf. Now, think about the people who rely on these brands. It's the budget shoppers, the folks who want something quick in the morning, the loyalists who swear by Folgers because it's what their parents drank. These are exactly the people most at risk of piling up that daily exposure without even knowing it. And while the caffeine might be cheap and convenient, what you're trading for speed is a chemical your body definitely doesn't need. Number 11. Seattle's Best. Seattle's Best coffee used to feel like the other side of Starbucks, a cheaper, more relaxed cousin. Still familiar, still coffee, but less prestige, less cost. It's in our grocery stores, Walmart, Target, etc., K-cups, ground coffee bags, flavored offerings. On paper, that sounds fine, but when you dig under the label, you start seeing why it isn't quite good enough for someone who cares what they drink. First of all, Seattle's Best was bought by Nestle in 2022 after being owned by Starbucks. That shift matters. Under Nestle, its direction looks more like mass produce and scale than specialty bean quality. It's cheaper, yes, but with that cost savings often comes compromises. Roast styles are darker and less nuanced, and bean sourcing gets vague. You see Latin America blend or Arabica beans, but almost no info about farm, altitude, or harvest quality. Those are the markers that true quality lovers care about. Next, certifications. Some Seattle's Best products do carry sustainability badges. For example, a Fair Trade certified vanilla-flavored ground version exists. That's a plus. And the brand claims responsibly grown and sourced in many promotional materials. But much of the line isn't organic, and many bags don't show detailed proof of ethical or clean farming practices. So, your trust is being asked without all the evidence. If your coffee isn't certified or transparent about pesticide use or worker conditions, there's a risk the beans are lower quality or sprayed heavily. Another drawback, taste and roast. Because Seattle's Best is positioned as budget Starbucks, you often get heavy roasting, which fires off more acrylamide, the chemical byproduct that forms from higher temperature roasting. Dark roasts hide bean defects, yes, but come with trade-offs in health and flavor. So you might get a smooth mug, but more chemical baggage and less flavor complexity. Finally, pricing and expectation mismatch. People buy Seattle's Best thinking Starbucks Light, but the difference can show up in freshness, beans may sit longer before roasting or packaging, in flavor depth, and in how much you pay versus what you really get. When you spend less, you should expect less, and with Seattle's Best, that gap shows more clearly if you compare bag for bag with higher-end beans. Number 10. Community Coffee. Community Coffee is one of those brands that feels like it has roots, character, and local pride, especially in the South. It's often marketed as a homey, traditional roast many people trusted. But if you look closer, there are a few wrinkles that put it in the questionable category. First off, acrylamide levels. Community, Coffee, Chicory, New Orleans blend showed up as one of the highest offenders of acrylamide levels, about 459 parts per billion. That's far above many competitors in the same test. So if you buy the coffee plus chicory blends from Community, you're getting more than just flavor, you're getting chemical load as well. Then there's flavor and roast style. Their coffee and chicory New Orleans blend is beloved by some for its bold, smoky, slightly sweet character. But chicory isn't just flavor, it's a filler. It stretches the coffee, tones down some bitterness, but also tends to increase acrylamide when roasted, darkened. If you're trying to get clean coffee with minimal risk, those blends are among the worst choices. Also, many of the non-chicory Community blends are medium or dark roast, which tend to hide bean defects and can also drive up acrylamide formation versus lighter roasts. When it comes to sourcing and transparency, Community Coffee does talk about quality on its website, but the details are vague. There's little to no documentation of organic certification, pesticide testing, or even the specific origins of their beans, like which farms or regions they come from, or the growing conditions. Without that level of clarity, you're left guessing how carefully the beans were produced and how clean the supply chain really island. That uncertainty shows up in consumer feedback too. Some loyal fans enjoy the bold flavor, but plenty of others complain about a bitter, almost harsh aftertaste. If you're sensitive to flavor quality or health concerns, that lack of transparency combined with a brew that often tastes heavy can be a red flag. Number 9. 8 o'clock coffee. 8 o'clock coffee has been around longer than most of us have been alive. Founded in 1859, it was once the coffee brand in America, sold by the A.P. grocery chain, and famous for its bright red packaging and unbeatable price. For decades, families swore by it. The problem is, 8 o'clock never really evolved. What was once the pride of supermarket shelves has turned into one of the most outdated and uninspired coffees you can buy today. The brand still leans heavily on its history, marketing itself as America's original gourmet coffee. But look closer. The beans are mass-produced, pre-ground, and stored in giant batches. By the time a bag hits your pantry, it's already been roasted months earlier, and the freshness is long gone. Coffee is supposed to bloom with aroma and oils when it's freshly ground. 8 o'clock? It usually tastes flat, bitter, and one note, like nostalgia in a bag, but not in a good way. Another issue is the illusion of quality. That big 100% Arabica badge on the front is supposed to sound reassuring, but it's really just marketing. Arabica beans can still be low grade, and without any transparency about origin, farming practices, or certifications, you have no idea what you're drinking. It could be pesticide-sprayed beans from bulk commodity lots, and odds are, it island. Here's the irony. 8 o'clock was once seen as the people's coffee, the affordable daily brew. But now, with competition everywhere, it's basically the Cheerios of coffee, still on the shelf because of habit, not because it's actually good. You don't buy it because it's the best, you buy it because it's there, cheap and familiar. Or like me, and don't buy it at all. Number 8. Chock full o' nuts. If you've ever strolled down a grocery aisle and spotted that bright yellow can with the bold black lettering, you've seen chock full o' nuts. The name itself feels quirky, almost nostalgic, like something from an old New York diner. And that's not far off. Back in the 1930s, Chock full o' nuts was born out of a chain of New York lunch counters. They weren't serving nuts, they were serving coffee, and for decades, it carried this reputation of being heavenly coffee for the everyday New Yorker. Fast forward to today, and the story's a lot less glamorous. Chock full o' nuts still trades on that vintage branding, but what's inside the can doesn't live up to the history. The beans are mass-sourced, roasted dark, and ground long before they ever hit store shelves. That means by the time you brew a pot at home, most of the freshness and aroma is gone. What you get instead is a cup that tastes burnt, bitter, and sometimes even metallic. Part of the issue is transparency, or rather, the lack of it. You won't find details about where the beans come from, how they were grown, or whether pesticides were used. There's no organic certification, no fair trade seal, nothing to assure you these beans were handled with care. It's the classic commodity coffee problem. cheap beans roasted hard to hide flaws. And that heavy roast isn't just a flavor issue. Over-roasting pushes up levels of acrylamide, the chemical byproduct linked to long-term health risks like cancer and nerve damage. Combine that with beans that may have sat in warehouses for months, and you're basically drinking a relic, but not the good kind. Here's the sad part. Chock full o' nuts was once tied to New York sophistication, a brand that meant something. Today, it's more like an outdated postcard from the past. The can looks iconic, but the coffee inside is a letdown. Number 7. Melitta Coffee. Melitta is a name that carries weight. Founded in Germany back in 1908, the company literally revolutionized coffee by inventing the paper filter. That heritage should mean you're getting a brand steeped in tradition and quality, right? But the Melitta coffee you find on Walmart or Target shelves today tells a different story. One that's far less about sophistication and far more about supermarket shortcuts. Take the packaging. Those vacuum-sealed brick packs of ground coffee are designed for long shelf life, not freshness. Coffee is a delicate product. Its flavor and aroma start to fade within weeks of roasting, but Melitta's mass-produced bags can sit in warehouses and on shelves for months. By the time you brew it at home, whatever subtlety the beans once had is long gone. What's left is often flat, bitter, and lifeless. Then there's the roast itself. Melitta leans heavily on dark roasting, not because it makes the beans taste better, but because it hides flaws. When you're working with bulk commodity beans of varying quality, roasting them darker covers up inconsistencies. The problem is, you also roast away the complexity. What should be a rich, layered flavor ends up tasting closer to burnt toast. And the darker the roast, the higher the levels of acrylamide, the chemical byproduct linked to potential cancer and nerve risks. So not only is the taste compromised, the health profile isn't great either. For a company with European roots, you'd also expect some transparency, single origin offerings, certifications, maybe a nod to organic or fair trade practices. But most of Melitta's supermarket coffee skips all of that. You'll see 100% Arabica and not much else. No farm details, no sustainability guarantees, no real proof of quality. It's smoke and mirrors dressed up in European branding. Number 6. Gevalia Coffee. Walk down the coffee aisle at Walmart or Target, and you'll spot Gevalia instantly, the shiny gold bag with the clean Scandinavian font, promising something sophisticated. The branding leans hard into Swedish heritage, selling the idea of a refined European coffee experience brought right into your kitchen. On the outside, it looks premium, but once you brew it, the illusion falls apart. Gevalia has been around since the 1800s, and in Sweden it's a respected name, but the Gevalia you get in American supermarkets today isn't the same story. Owned by Kraft Heinz, the U.S. product line is built for volume, not craftsmanship. The beans are roasted and packaged in bulk, shipped across warehouses, and often sit on shelves for months before you buy them. Coffee loses its aromatic oils quickly, and by the time that gold bag makes it to your cart, a lot of the flavor is already gone. Then there's the taste itself. Despite the luxury marketing, consumer feedback is full of the same complaints. Gevalia brews weak, flat, and watery. Some blends lean bitter, others taste bland. What's missing is the richness you'd expect from something positioned as a cut above Folgers or Maxwell House. It's coffee that looks upscale on the shelf, but tastes like it belongs in the bargain bin. Transparency is another problem. You'll see the word Arabica on the label, but no detail on origin, no organic certifications, no fair trade guarantees. Without that, you don't know what farming practices were used, whether pesticides are involved, or what grade of beans you're drinking. And given that Kraft Heinz controls the brand, it's safe to say the priority isn't sourcing excellence, it's scaling a product that looks fancy but costs cheap to produce. Number 5. Louisiane Coffee. If you've spent time in the South, you've probably seen Louisiane. The brand is better known for its iced tea, but its coffee has been on supermarket shelves for decades, often sold as a Southern tradition. For a lot of families, that red can feels nostalgic, almost like a piece of local culture. But behind the branding, Louisiane's coffee is less about tradition and more about cutting corners. The first red flag is chicory. Many Louisiane blends, including the coffee and chicory line, stretch their coffee with roasted chicory root. Historically, chicory was used as a cheap filler during shortages, like in the Civil War or the Great Depression, and it never really went away. Chicory doesn't just dilute coffee, it changes it. The flavor turns woody, bitter, and heavy. Some people defend it as distinct, but let's be real. Chicory is a cost saver, not a flavor enhancer. Then there's the health angle. Studies, including FDA survey data, show that chicory-heavy coffees contain some of the highest acrylamide levels of any coffee products tested. Acrylamide is the chemical byproduct of roasting that's been linked in studies to cancer and nerve issues at high doses. While it's in all roasted coffee, chicory blends push it off the charts. So instead of just drinking a cup of coffee, you're getting an unnecessary chemical load with every sip. And if that wasn't enough, Louisiane doesn't offer much transparency. Labels boast Southern tradition, but you won't see organic certifications, fair trade stamps, or even clear origin details on the beans. It's another case of commodity-grade coffee marketed with a heritage spin. Add in the fact that these cans are roasted and packaged in big batches, often sitting for months before you buy them, and what lands in your mug is usually stale before you ever crack the seal. Number 4. Hillsborough Coffee. Hillsborough's coffee, you've seen it. That big red can with the little guy sipping his mug like he's found enlightenment. It's been on shelves for over a century, and your grandparents probably had one sitting on the counter. Back in the late 1800s, Hillsborough's actually was a game changer. They were the first to vacuum seal coffee in a can, and at the time, that was revolutionary. People went from scooping mystery beans out of a barrel to having fresh coffee at home for weeks. It was cutting edge. But here's the truth. What was innovative then is basically stale now. Hillsborough's hasn't aged like fine wine. It's aged like an old can of soup in the back of your pantry. While modern coffee has gone small batch, single origin, and flavor-driven, Hillsborough's is still pumping out giant tubs of pre-ground beans that taste like, well, like history. And not the good kind. Crack open a can and you'll see what I mean. It smells kind of like coffee, but once you brew it, the magic's gone. The taste is flat, sometimes bitter, sometimes watery, a cup that somehow manages to do nothing and too much at the same time. It's the kind of coffee you drink half asleep before work because it's there, not because you enjoy it. And that's what makes Hillsborough so frustrating. This was once the brand that set the standard. Now it's the background noise of the coffee aisle. Safe, boring, outdated. The coffee equivalent of a rotary phone. Sure, it works. But do you really want to go back to dial-up when there's Wi-Fi everywhere? Bottom line, Hillsborough's is a relic. It sells you nostalgia in a can, but brews you a cup of mediocrity. If you want to actually taste your coffee, not just tolerate it, leave this one in the past where it belongs. Number 3. Café La Llave. Café La Llave is one of those brands that looks like it carries weight. The dark green can, the bold lettering, the promise of a true Cuban-style espresso. You'll find it in Walmart, Target, Costco, and just about every Hispanic grocery store in the country. On the surface, it feels authentic, strong, bold, cultural. But let's be brutally honest. Once you get past the branding, what's inside that can is just another low-grade, over-roasted supermarket coffee dressed up in tradition. The first problem is the roast. La Llave takes the beans so dark that whatever natural flavors they once had are roasted right out. Coffee at its best has nuance. Floral, fruity, chocolatey notes, depending on where it's grown. La Llave? None of that survives. What you get instead is a harsh, smoky bitterness, the kind of taste that lingers on your tongue like burnt toast. Sure, it packs a punch, but it's not the kind of boldness you brag about. It's the kind you put up with. And that's the trick. Like Bustelo or Pilon, La Llave leans on an extra dark roast to cover up the fact that the beans themselves are bottom-of-the-barrel commodity stock. You won't find single origin details, farm transparency, or organic certifications anywhere on the label. Just a vague Latin American blend, which usually means they're buying the cheapest lots available and roasting them until the defects disappear under all that char. To make matters worse, it's sold pre-ground, vacuum-packed, and mass-distributed. Coffee loses its aroma and oils fast, and with La Llave, that staleness sets in long before it hits your cup. You might smell espresso when you first open the can, but brew it and you'll see. It's flat, one note, and bitter. Number 2. McCafe packaged coffee. McDonald's couldn't just stop at burgers and fries, could they? Nope. they had to invade the grocery store coffee aisle too, with McCafe packaged coffee. You've probably seen it. Shiny bags, K-cups, even Costco bulk boxes all whispering, "Bring the cafe home." But let's be real, this isn't cafe coffee. This is the coffee equivalent of reheated fries. Technically edible, but never impressive. Here's the thing, the bag brags 100% Arabica, but that's like a frozen pizza bragging it's 100% real cheese. Cool flex, but it doesn't mean it's any good. Arabica runs the whole spectrum from world-class beans to bottom-of-the-barrel commodity stock. Guess which end McDonald's is sourcing from to keep the price low and the supply massive? Yeah, the cheap side. Brew it up, and the truth hits fast. McCafe tastes exactly like what you'd expect from a fast food chain, safe, bland, and a little boring. It's roasted in giant industrial batches, ground who knows when, and vacuum sealed to sit on shelves until someone grabs it on a Costco run. By the time it hits your mug, it's lost all the complexity real coffee should have. It's caffeine with training wheels. And the marketing? That's the funniest part. McCafe wants you to feel like you're getting a slice of coffeehouse culture. In reality, you're just paying for a golden arches sticker on a bag of beans that taste about as exciting as room temperature soda. It's predictable, it's mass-produced, and it's designed to offend nobody, but impress nobody either. Number 1, Maxwell House. If there's one coffee brand that sums up the fall from grace in America's coffee aisle, it's Maxwell House. Once upon a time, this was the household name. The slogan said it all, good to the last drop. For decades, families trusted it, hotels served it, and even the White House poured it. But here's the truth in modern times. Maxwell House isn't good to the last drop. It's barely good to the first one. The problem starts with the beans themselves. Maxwell House is mass-produced at a scale that makes quality a forgotten word. No sourcing info, no certifications, no farm transparency, just giant lots of the cheapest Arabica they can buy. And what do they do to make sure it tastes consistent? Roast it dark enough to hide the flaws, grind it far in advance, and vacuum seal it until every trace of freshness has been suffocated. By the time it makes it into your mug, the only thing left is bitterness and nostalgia. And let's talk flavor. Maxwell House is the definition of flat and lifeless. It doesn't have the bold punch of a dark roast done right, or the bright notes of a fresh light roast. Instead, it sits awkwardly in the middle, bland, bitter, sometimes even sour. It's coffee for people who drink it because it's there, not because they actually enjoy it. The saddest part? Maxwell House was once iconic. It represented America's coffee culture. Now, it's the coffee equivalent of your grandpa's old recliner, beat up, sagging, and somehow still in the living room because nobody bothered to throw it out. Nostalgia keeps it alive, not taste. But hey, cheer up, as I'm about to show you the light at the end of the tunnel with 5 alternative coffee options that are genuinely worth getting in that shopping cart. Number 5. Peet's Coffee. Not every supermarket coffee is a disaster, and Peet's Coffee is proof. You'll find it in Target, Walmart, Kroger, Costco, right alongside the usual suspects like Folgers and Maxwell House. But here's the difference. Peet's actually cares about what's in the bag, and it shows in the cup. Peet's was founded in 1966 in Berkeley, California, and it became the quiet pioneer of America's coffee revolution. Before Starbucks went nationwide, Peet's was roasting beans with care, focusing on bold flavor and freshness. And while it has scaled up since then, it's one of the rare supermarket brands that hasn't completely sold out on quality. First, the freshness. Peet's has a reputation for roasting its beans in smaller, more frequent batches than the legacy brands. That means the coffee you buy in a bag is generally fresher, and you can taste the difference. While Maxwell House or 8 o'clock often brew up flat and lifeless, Peet's still delivers a cup with body, aroma, and character. Then there's sourcing. Peet's isn't perfect, but they do offer single origin lines and blends with more transparency than most of the coffee aisle. You'll see origins listed: Ethiopia, Colombia, Sumatra, which gives you confidence the beans aren't just the cheapest commodity lots they could find. Many of their premium lines are Rainforest Alliance certified, and they've taken real steps towards sustainable sourcing. That's miles better than vague 100% Arabica labels slapped on cans of mystery beans. Flavor-wise, Peet's is bold. Their dark roasts are rich without being ashy, and their lighter roasts still carry complexity. you might actually pick up notes of chocolate, fruit, or spice, something you'll never get out of a tin of Maxwell House. Number 4. Stumptown Coffee Roasters. If Peet's is the veteran that brought America into modern coffee, Stumptown is the cool kid that made coffee hip. Founded in Portland in 1999, Stumptown is one of the original third-wave coffee roasters, the movement that pushed coffee from being just fuel into being an artisanal experience, like wine or craft beer. And the good news for consumers? You don't have to live in Portland anymore to get it. Stumptown beans are now in Target, Whole Foods, and plenty of mainstream supermarkets, making real specialty coffee accessible to everyday shoppers. What makes Stumptown stand out is its commitment to sourcing. They were among the first to push direct trade, meaning instead of buying anonymous bulk beans, they partner directly with farmers. That not only ensures fairer pay for growers, but it also gives them the ability to select high-quality beans from specific farms and regions. When you buy a bag of Stumptown, you're not drinking mystery beans. You're tasting something traceable, intentional, and usually exceptional. And then there's the flavor. Stumptown roasts to highlight complexity instead of roasting everything dark to cover flaws. Their famous Hairbender blend is a perfect example, layered with chocolate, caramel, and a little fruit brightness, a cup that actually evolves as you drink it. Their single origins, like Ethiopia or Guatemala, bring out citrus, berry, or floral notes you simply don't find in mass-market brands. It's coffee that makes you pause and notice, not just chug to wake up. Stumptown also avoids the supermarket trap of stale beans. They roast in smaller batches, date stamp their bags, and move product through shelves quickly. That means when you buy Stumptown at a Target or Whole Foods, odds are it's fresher than 90% of what sits next to it. Number 3. Lavazza Coffee. When it comes to supermarket coffee, a lot of brands pretend to have European sophistication. Gold bags, fancy fonts, foreign-sounding names, all trying to trick you into thinking you're buying something premium. But one of the few that actually lives up to the reputation is Lavazza. This Italian brand has been roasting coffee for over 125 years, and it's still family-owned. And here's the kicker. You can find it right on the shelf at Walmart, Costco, Target, and pretty much every major supermarket. Lavazza's strength starts with its heritage. Italians treat coffee differently. It's not just caffeine. It's a ritual. That tradition shows in how Lavazza approaches its blends. Instead of dumping random beans together, they've mastered the art of creating espresso-style coffee that's smooth, balanced, and consistent. Their Espresso Italiano and Gran Selezione lines, for example, are crowd favorites because they give you that cafe-style depth without bitterness. Another reason Lavazza earns a spot on the good list is sourcing. While not every bag is organic, many of Lavazza's premium lines are Rainforest Alliance certified, which means the beans are grown with sustainability and ethical practices in mind. That's already better than most legacy supermarket brands, which give you nothing more than the vague promise of 100% Arabica. With Lavazza, you at least know some thought went into the supply chain. And let's talk flavor. Lavazza isn't trying to be a hip third-wave roaster like Stumptown or Intelligentsia. It's about smoothness and drinkability. Their blends aren't overly acidic, not too smoky, and they avoid that burnt aftertaste you get from budget coffees. Whether you brew it in a drip machine, French press, or as espresso, it delivers a cup that feels elevated compared to the Maxwell Houses and Gavelius of the world. Number 2. Allegro Coffee. Allegro Coffee is the bag you probably walk past without a second glance. No bold slogans like "good to the last drop," no oversized cans with smiling cartoon men, no flashy European gold packaging. Just a clean, simple bag sitting quietly on the Whole Foods shelf. And that's exactly the point. Allegro doesn't try to trick you with nostalgia or fake sophistication. It just delivers solid coffee without the gimmicks. The thing that makes Allegro stand out is how understated it island. Most of the coffee aisle is all noise. Promises of premium taste, 100% Arabica, or world's best roast. Allegro doesn't waste your time with marketing fluff. Instead, it leans on things that actually matter. Organic beans, fair trade practices, and smaller batch roasting. It's not loud, but it's honest. And that honesty translates into the cup. And let's be clear, Allegro isn't trying to be Stumptown or Intelligentsia. You're not buying it for a trendy label or for some third-wave street cred. You're buying it because it's fresher than the legacy brands, it tastes cleaner than the bargain bin coffees, and it actually aligns with what Whole Foods customers expect, real food, handled with some care. Flavor-wise, Allegro keeps it straightforward. Their blends are smooth and easy to drink, while the single origin options give you just enough complexity to remind you what coffee is supposed to taste like when it isn't burnt to oblivion. It's not a show-off coffee, it's a quiet workhorse, the kind that shows up, does its job well, and doesn't need a gold bag or cheesy slogan to prove it. Number 1. Dunkin' Original Blend. When most people think of Dunkin', they picture the drive-thru. Iced coffees, flavored lattes, donuts on the side. And while some of those menu drinks belong on the bad list for sugar overload, Dunkin's Original Blend supermarket coffee is a very different story. You'll find it bagged or in K-Cups at Walmart, Target, Costco, Sam's Club, and just about every grocery store nationwide, and it actually earns its spot as one of the good supermarket coffees. Here's why. First, it's 100% Arabica beans, and while that alone doesn't guarantee quality, Dunkin' consistently roasts their beans lighter than Starbucks or other dark roast heavy brands. That means you avoid the charred, burnt taste that turns so many people off. Instead, Dunkin' Original Blend is smooth, mild, and easy to drink black or with cream, making it one of the most approachable coffees in the mass market aisle. Another advantage? Freshness through volume. Dunkin' sells so much coffee that their supermarket bags don't sit around forever. With slower-moving brands like Cuban or Gevalia, you might be buying beans roasted months ago. With Dunkin', the turnover is so fast that your bag is more likely to still have some life left in it. Coffee oils fade quickly after roasting, so this higher volume actually works in your favor. On sourcing, Dunkin' isn't perfect, but they've made moves in the right direction. Many of their supermarket lines are Rainforest Alliance certified, meaning at least part of their supply chain meets sustainability and ethical standards. That's a step ahead of the mystery beans approach you see with most legacy brands. And then there's the taste. Dunkin' Original Blend doesn't try to be fancy, but that's its strength. It's consistent. Brew it in a drip machine, French press, or even as cold brew, and you'll get a clean, drinkable cup without the bitterness or harsh aftertaste of bargain coffees.